We are off to a hot start for the lock of the night predictions for you guys. As last time around, Movsar Evloev comes through as a minus 190 favorite as he goes out there and defeats Arnold Allen. It was a close fight late, but I thought he did enough in the first two rounds to go out there and showcase his grappling and output dominance, and that's exactly what he was able to do as he cashes, like I said, as a minus 190 lock of the night prediction for your boy. Now that brings our record now to 5-1 for plus 6.11 units and a 20% ROI through the first month of the year. Obviously, that we only had 2 UFC events, which means that there were 4 other events, which is in part with the regional shows that we do, KSW, ACA, LFA, I believe, had one of their shows as well. I should have just fixed my shirt before I started the recording, but it is what it is. So again, solid start, 5-1. I'm very happy with that. We want to continue that progression and try to keep above 80% hit rate as best as possible, just to make up for some of the chalkier spots we might end up taking in some of these upcoming events. So there you guys go. Solid start to the year, like I said. But I got another 3 lock of the night candidates for you guys for this UFC Vegas 85 card. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First candidate up, we got Marquel Maderos coming in around minus 130. He goes up against Landon Quinones. Now, Landon obviously came in on short notice to make his UFC debut back in September when he came up short against Nasrat Haqparast. Now, Marquel Maderos makes his UFC debut after earning his Contender Series contract this past season after finishing Isa Isakov in the first round with a beautifully timed knee that put Isakov out cold. Now, Maderos trains out of Factory X, and that's one of the better gyms that you see represented inside the UFC, and I think Maderos could end up going down as one of the best fighters to come out of that gym. He has a very educated striking game, which is fueled by a lot of kicks, a lot of them going to the calf and really hurting his opponents and slowing them down, but he also has a solid grappling game that he can lean on if he feels he has a good enough edge in that realm. This guy is a very solid fighter, very athletic, and still young enough to continue to make improvements, and I think whatever he's good at, whatever Landon Quinones is good at, Maderos is kind of better. I think Quinones is a guy that will get demoralized if a fight is not really going in his favor, and I don't want to simply judge him off of his loss to Haqparast because we have to give him the benefit of the doubt, considering it was a short notice matchup for him, and he was looking up at the clock halfway through that fight. But I think I expect to see a better version of him this weekend, but I expect to see an even better version of Marquel Maderos, who's going to be a little bit too fast for him, and as long as he doesn't allow Quinones to land a clean enough shot to put him out cold, I expect Maderos to control the majority of this matchup and win it. I think he just wins it. Straight up, minus 130, not a bad lock of the night candidate there for you guys. Second lock of the night candidate I have is going to be Ji-Young Lee. Probably butchered his name there, but I'm just going to go with Lee. He comes in at minus 145 as he takes on Blake Bilder. Now, Bilder is a guy that I've been very hot and cold on through his Contender Series fights and his first 2 UFC fights, but I think he's outmatched here against Lee. Bilder's best chance of winning this fight is if he can get his grapple-heavy approach going, which I don't think will come to fruition this weekend. Now, Lee faced a grapple-heavy fighter in his road to UFC finale that earned him his contract to the UFC, and he could have performed better that night, but luckily he still landed enough damage that the judges saw it in his favor. I think that we'll see an even better version of Lee this time around, as I was told that he had gone into that fight with an injury, was unable to train much of his wrestling, and now he is taken a full year off to rehab and recover from that knee injury, has been focusing on his training, has brought in the likes of guys like Cody Steele from the Fury FC scene, as you've been seeing him post on Instagram, high-level BJJ guys, high-level wrestlers, and he's been drilling his wrestling to a T so that he can keep fights in the upright position where he more often than not has a striking advantage over his opponents. That's exactly what he has here over Blake Bilder. As we've seen, if Bilder is unable to get fights to the ground, he struggles to stay effective in terms of his output and his striking with his opponents unless he's fighting a gun-shy fighter like Shane Young. I think that we saw Carl Nelson have the perfect blueprint to beat a guy like Blake Bilder in terms of stuffing 3 of the takedowns that he shot at him and then just meeting him anytime Blake would try to crash the pocket with his his lateral movement that he continuously implements in his fight. If you kind of keep him in a box, you use your kicks, and then use your straight shots down the whenever a builder tries to close that pocket, that's the best way to get the best of him. And I think a long fighter like Lee could definitely make him pay. So give me Lee as the second lock of the night candidate, coming in at -145. The third and final lock of the night candidate I have for you guys is going to be Azat Maxum, coming in at -210. He goes up against Charles Johnson, who is currently riding a 3-fight losing streak. Now, on paper, this is the perfect matchup for Maxum in terms of going out there and putting Johnson into uncomfortable positions and utilizing his output and activity to get the judges to favor him once the fight hits the scorecards. Johnson was formerly a guy on the regional scene who was very high level, utilized the output heavy game, activity heavy game, but he seems to have been muzzled since coming to the UFC, especially over his last 3 fights, where he always finds himself on the defensive, allowing his opponent to dictate the fight. I think Maxum did not show the best of his abilities in his UFC debut against Tyson M, which is why I think we're getting even a -210 line on him here, considering that he's usually a -400, -500. This is a guy that, even without a grappling game, which I think he could be successful with here in terms of pushing Charles Johnson up against the cage, getting a bunch of control time, maybe landing a couple of takedowns, maybe not a whole lot of control time on the mat, but even if he's unable to get the grappling or clinching going, I think his output on the feet is enough to make it look better for the judges against the guy in Charles Johnson, who just, I don't know, he seems to have some sort of gun shyness. I thought the last fight, which would have helped him avoid a 3-fight losing streak, would have been the fight that we would see him finally start to let his punches go, but that was not the case. He had Rafael Estevam on empty in the third round and was unable to do much effective damage there to get his hand raised. So I think Maxum, great gas tank, solid striker, better grappler, but no matter what, I think he's going to put together a better body of work to get his hand raised in this fight by decision. There you guys go. 3 lock of the night candidates. Which one did I officially end up going with to try to add to my 5-1 record for the year? You guys can find that out on the Patreon page. Check the link in the description below, the MMA Lock of the Night Patreon page. That's where you guys can find written breakdowns, fun parlays, degenerate parlays, same game props, or same game parlays, Lock of the Night plays, Dog of the Night plays, all those write-ups on all the regional shows as well. Check it all out on the Patreon page. Link for that in the description below. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow for the top 3 Dog of the Night candidates that I have for UFC Vegas 85. Until then, peace.